All right, let's talk about writing styles in our React project. So there's all kinds of different ways that you can write CSS in a React thing. You could literally just add classes to elements and then pop a CSS file in there and call it a day. You can do the same thing with Sass. You could use utility framework. One way that I like to write all of my CSS is via scoped CSS. And the package that we're going to be using today is styled components, but the ideas behind styled components, they are relevant in almost all of the React base and even Angular and Vue and whatnot base scope CSS. So all of these ideas will translate. So the idea behind style components, or CSS in JS as we call it, is that you define all of your CSS in components as well. And those things have a number of benefits. First, we're going to be able to scope our CSS really, really easily. And I'll show you what I mean about that in just a second. Second, you can use JavaScript values inside of CSS. So if you have a variable that's part of your state or part of any part of your React application, you can actually use that variable inside of your React component. So rather than get too much into it, let's just start writing some and we'll explain along the way. So open up your header.js. And I think the first thing that we should do is we want to apply some styles to this sickfits logo. So I'm going to go to the sickfits here, and actually that should be wrapped in H1. So wrap it in an H1 tag and then we pop it there. So let's see. There we go. With sickfits right there. Now, if I wanted to apply styles to this, you might think, okay, I'll give it a class of like header, or a class of like logo, and then you'll go into some other part of your application and define.logo. But instead of applying classes to things and going elsewhere, what we're going to do is we're going to create an H1 component with the styles already attached to it. And then that will immediately scope all of the styles to that H1 tag and make sure that, like, if I write like a link inside of this logo component, and it's not going to apply to any other links on the page. Or if I say like, I have a common class, like how many times have you given something a class of new or special or something like that, and then accidentally you use that class somewhere else on the website and that broke it then. So the idea here is that we're going to go up here and we're going to make a variable called logo, capital L, and that is equal to a style dot. And then here is where you will tell it what type of component you want it to be. So in our case, we want it to be a style.h1. And then we use backticks. So don't use quotes, double quotes. We want to use backticks. And this is what is referred to as a tag template literal. It's kind of like just running a function called style.h1. Then we'll go ahead and we'll import styled. So import styled from styled components. And then let's just start writing our CSS inside of here. So we'll say background is red. Then what we do to apply the CSS, right? This CSS has not been applied to anything just yet, is that we're going to go to where we have used our H1, and we are going to replace the H1 with our new component that we just made. We'll call it logo. And then when I give it a save here, you'll see that this logo is now, it's still being rendered as an H1, but it's got this like sort of pseudo random, or not pseudo, it's totally random ID attached to it. And then that is associated with whatever styles we write on. Now, actually, let's change that up a little bit. This logo should encompass the entire link tag. So let's make sure we do that. Okay, so we've got our logo, and then we have the link inside of it, and that translates to an H1 tag with an A inside of it. Now, if I go in here and I select the link, like A, and I maybe say color is equal to white, you'll see that it turns white, and that doesn't turn the rest of the links on the page white. It only turns the links inside of the style.h1 white. And that's really, really nice because now I don't have to go adding, like you still can add classes to things. I did, and we'll look at how to do that. But I no longer have to think of a class name, a very specific class to add to this link, and oh, it accidentally applied to something else. All of the styles that I write inside of here, first of all, the top level ones will be applied directly to the H1, and then you can also have descendant selectors inside of each of these style components. So let's start writing a little bit of CSS on here. We haven't done like a reset or global styles or fonts or anything just yet. That'll come in the next video. But for now, let's get some base styles on this H1 going. So we'll say font size is 4 rem, margin left 2 rem, position relative, Z index 2. And by the way, these completions that I'm doing here again is Z2. And I just open it up and say expand abbreviation. If you don't have a keyboard shortcut hooked up to that, you can do so in your VS Code settings. I added Control E to that one myself so that it will expand. And that's how I write CSS so quickly, is I use these Emmet expansion. And then we want transform. We'll say skew is -7 degrees. Okay. Text decoration none on that link. Okay, looking good. Text transform uppercase, and padding is 0.5 rem and 1 rem. Okay, so that's very basic CSS. We're going to make it look a lot better than that in just a second, but that's our basics for now in terms of how do we create a style component. Now, if this logo here was to be reused in other portions of the website, then what I would do is I would stick this in its own file or its own component and then import it as I needed it. So we can take a look real quick at our components. Our styles folder here has a list of all these different styles that I have provided for you. So some form styles. So see, here we go. Const form is equal to style.form. It's got the box shadow, the font size, and anywhere I want to apply these form styles, I simply just need to import it. And in place of using a regular form tag, I can use a styled component form tag, and it still takes all the regular attributes and props that you're used to. What else do we have here? Pagination. We'll go through all these as we need them, but just know that these are all reusable styles that we use throughout the website. So some people say, yeah, Wes, always put your styles in a separate file. My sort of mantra or my way of approaching this is I don't like to have too many files because that gets confusing. I get overwhelmed with all the files, too many files for me. So I'll just define the styles in the component where I use it. And then as I find either it's getting too big in this one component, or I need to reuse this style in 6 or 7 or even 2 different places in the website, then I'll stick it in its own file, export it, and then import it like a regular old component into any other place that I specifically need it. Okay, so we got our style H1. That's looking pretty good. Let's make another one for this header right here. So what we'll do here is we want to style this header. So we'll say const header, and sometimes I like to put, or usually I like to put header styles on the end, just so that it notes to me that it is a styled component and not a regular React component. And that is this styled dot, and it's a header component, right? And then we'll go in here and let's just background red again on that, and just triple check that it's working. Kind of one funny thing about this is I'm going to show you how to put variables like red variable in here, but the red that I've chosen is actually just red. So it's kind of nice. You could just use the word red if you want, but what we're going to do here is we're going to replace the open and close tag with our header styles. Now I give it a save. It doesn't change the markup, but it does change which CSS is being applied to it. So we don't want background red, but we do want to grab the bar inside of it. That's why I've popped that class there. And I'll say border bottom. There we go. That one, 10px solid black. And that black is actually going to be a variable black. So let's do this. Var dash dash black, and then we'll fall back to black. And what we'll do is we'll set a CSS variable called black that's slightly different in just a bit. But for now, we'll just set it to fall back to regular old black. That's what the second argument of var is. If you've never seen this before, this is part of CSS. This is not a specific JavaScript thing. Style components does have the ability to do like theme variables, but with CSS variables, I haven't found it necessary or a need for that specific thing. So I've just been doing that. We'll display a grid on that. Grid template columns, GTC, is going to be auto 1FR. Justified content is space between. Align items, center. It's looking pretty good. And then we'll grab the other one, sub bar display grid. We're not adding mobile styles right now. We will come back to that. So if it's looking a little funky on your phone, that's why. Grid template columns is 1FR and auto, and border bottom. Actually, let's just duplicate that one up here. Looking good. Oh, that should just be 1px though, not 10. All right, so that's the very basics of our styles. That's how we're going to be writing all of the styles in this project. I personally use this on, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 different projects I have in production, and I am a big fan of it because it doesn't get you too far away from what regular CSS looks like, but it does still give you all of the benefits of being able to scope it. Last thing you're going to notice is that if you refresh the page here, you're going to see that it like does this like flicker where you get like the unstyled page for just a second. We're going to look at how to fix that with server-side rendering in a coming video.